So I appreciate everybody being here. Thank you. I appreciate the slow start. And all the chaos that is going to go on this particular webinar. So it's a new world we live in, and this is just how we do it. Okay, I'll keep things moving for us. So thank you everyone for attending. Chris Gibbons here, president of American Green Consulting. I consider us, okay, remember. I consider us the premier CoC certification and consulting firm in the United States and North America. And to my knowledge, we support more certificate holders than any other organization out there. From some of the smallest, sole proprietor in the heartland, to some of the biggest, are just wooden paper companies who have mills coast to coast. This is the second webinar in what we intend to be a regular series addressing many different certification related topics. The first webinar covered FSC's new core labor requirements because it was such a topic of significant concern. For today's webinar, we're going to stick with FSC. We're going to cover all the other changes in 40-004 that came along with core labor. So if you have not or did not participate in our first webinar last month, you're welcome to send us an email and we will get you the link to that. All right. All right. Of course, I'll briefly mention our agency services that can help you through all these things, but I promise I'll keep it brief. The real focus is just on making sure that if you all want to do this on your own, you can. But we are always here to help. And normally I would have Jess Gillen here with me, but like I said, she had to step out. Everything is okay on her side, but unavoidable absence. So I will be doing my best to not follow things up technologically. There is a question and answer at the end. There is a question and answer function inside the panel there, so you can put your questions in, and then I'll go through them at the end and answer them all. If you have any chats, technical issues, whatever, I am seeing, little chats pop up here and there. But for the actual specific questions, we'll use the Q&A for function. Normally we have an opening poll, but I didn't know how to start it, so we're skipping it. And I also do not have some of the links throughout that we like to share in chat. So I will make sure when the email goes out with a link to this recording, that all of the documents that we would have otherwise shared with you will be in there. For this one, I think I only had chosen one, which was a track changes version of the 40-004. You can download 3-0 from the FSC website still. You can download 3-1 from the FSC website, but it's not that easy to find the actual track changes that compares the two. So that we will make sure you get a copy of. There we go. Okay.
Ken has a nail.
Yeah, I know, but quiet down for me, please. All right, so today we will be discussing the following topics. Elimination of the self-declaration regarding the policy for association, fiber testing, timber legality, virgin and reclaimed fiber credit accounts, cross-site sharing for percentage and credit, outsourcing changes, and all the other little randomness. I think if any of you went through my LinkedIn reminder, you'll recognize when I mentioned that I really thought this was going to be short, and it turns out to not be. So let's keep on going. All right. Some of these changes are trivial. Some of them are significant. All of them, however, quiet for me, buddy, please. All of them can lead to CARs and NCRs were not addressed during an audit. For those of you who lived through the NCRs from Mix and mixed, you recognize that that is certainly an issue. All right. So the very first one, okay, it's really quiet. Okay, there you go. All right. So the first one is the self-assessment requirement. Section 1.3 of the standard, previously described as self-declaration. Many of us are familiar with it, and the US had a different version because we're not a signatory to the ILO. That self-assessment has been removed. However, the only reason it's been removed is because it was added into the trademark license agreement. So everybody recently has signed a new trademark license agreement, and the information from the self-assessment is in there, and therefore there's no need for a separate one. So the actual requirements of it, the agreement that you're making, did not disappear, just the actual document itself. Still worth getting rid of. No reason to have a secondary document that you do not need. One less document to keep track of. Okay. Transaction verification existed in the last one. I should put the heading as fiber testing, apologies. 3.0 introduced transaction verification. Transaction verification allows FSC and ASI, which is their audit firm, to piece together the entirety of a supply chain, 100% of the purchases and sales through all certificate holders, rather than just a standard auditing sample. They do this when they believe there is fraud within that supply chain somewhere. The addition in this standard is fiber testing. Now, I don't know if anyone or everyone is familiar with fiber testing, but it really is the wave of the future. They are doing some wonderful work with DNA testing of the fiber in trees, and they can track wood products down to about a 50-kilometer area worldwide. There's a wonderful organization. I put the website, very simple one, up on your screen if you haven't had a chance to look. And FSC is taking part in this, pretty heavily, as are many wood products organizations worldwide. But the transaction verification section is now the transaction verification and fiber testing section. So by being a certificate holder, you are agreeing not only to open your books if they're searching for fraud, but also to provide samples of your materials in those instances as well. I have seen in the 5 years, or more than 5 years now, I guess, the transaction verification has been around. I've seen a dozen, maybe, transaction verifications worldwide. It just isn't a huge thing. We don't anticipate fiber testing to be either. Obviously with the millions of transactions that go along and the tens of thousands of certified companies, to only see a dozen or maybe 2 dozen, it just isn't a large concern. It is a little bit of a pain if it happens to you, but if you're an American Green client, give us a call. We help walk you through it. Section 6 is timber legality. This is one of those changes that always makes me laugh, just because I immediately imagine what ridiculous argument came to FSC that they felt that they needed to add this information in to the standard, because FSC never thinks of this stuff on their own. But here we are, and now we have additional language. And I don't know if the additional language is going to help or hinder, but we have it. So long story short, there are 2 additions. It just highlights the controlled wood has to be legal. And I guess great. In case the section for controlled wood in the controlled wood standard that talked about legality wasn't clear enough, then now we have it in the 40-004 as well. But now very clear, controlled wood has to be legal. And the information that you provide to determine legality must be correct and tied to an actual product. Once again, it seems to me must be a no-brainer. But here we have it. Those are the additions. Now, the one thing I will note is we're keeping our eye on the very first sentence. It originally read, the organization shall ensure that its FSC certified products shall conform to all applicable timber legality legislation. That was pretty straightforward, except they changed it. So now it reads, the organization shall ensure that its FSC certified products and controlled wood products or timber products shall conform to all applicable timber legality legislation. I feel like I want to give a public service announcement on behalf of the Oxford University and the use of commas. Commas save lives, people. So most likely what is happening here is they're simply that's too loud what Dad's talking about. They're simply highlighting you can't use any illegal timber, not just the timber within your certified lines. But that's open for interpretation to what they're actually saying. So we've just marked it as something that we're going to keep our eyes and ears open for. If somebody does have something come up during the audit, let me know, and we'll deal with it. So just one of those little snippets that because we're doing this day in and day out, we pay attention to. All right. Section 8 of the standard defines credit accounts. And that is a joke because Section 8 it defines product groups. Buddy, what are we talking about? Okay, Dad's working. You have to settle down. Okay. So they've added, for whatever reason, a note regarding credit accounts into Section 8 regarding product groups. So why not? This new note differentiates between virgin and recycled fiber, clearly defining them as different product groups in some, but not all, but maybe most situations. It states that you can combine virgin and recycled fiber credits into one credit account, but if you happen to make a product solely out of either recycled or solely out of virgin, then you have to separate those credits out again. If you think this note is applicable to you, then please give us a call. Next is Section 11, actually the credit system. And we're talking about cross-site credits, cross-site percentage, cross-site sharing. So Section 10 is the percentage system now. Section 11 is the credit system. Both have removed the temporary tag from their cross-site sharing sections, which are Section 10.4 and 11.3 respectively. If you're using these, if you are using the credit system, I also suggest looking at 11.5, which just has a minor change, explicitly defining some quality criteria when differentiating materials. Okay, let's take a quick break and talk about what American Green offers. You can see it on the screen. Companies of any size, from less than 5 million to multi-billion-dollar companies who need our full multi-site management services. We do group certification, we do multi-site management, we do individual certificate help as well, especially through our chain of custody portal and our certification kits. The portal is absolutely wonderful. You can log on, pay with your credit card, answer questions on your own time frame, watch videos. You don't even have to talk to us. You can do it at 3 a.m. if you want, and it has all of the updates that you need for the new 3-1. All right, 2 topics to go. We're moving fast. Second to last is outsourcing. Everybody's favorite topic, so simple at baseline. Section 13.9 adds, but I think it really clarifies that a certified contractor doing certified work has to be able to link purchase material in the supply chain. Again, this is one of those that just, you think to yourself, why did this have to be added in? Where did this come from? Linking materials through the supply chain is a requirement for all certified companies. So why would it be different for outsourcing? But apparently for someone it was. So now they've added language into the standard. All right. One odd thing that I noticed, and we'll mention this in a second, they use the word invoice in their additional clause, where they've spent the whole rest of their changes removing the word invoice. The biggest small change to outsourcing, though, is the last sentence of section 13.10. Now, there are not a lot of times that this clause will come into effect, but when it does, which is customer supplied materials, it can have a big impact. Effectively, FSC has restricted white boxing, which, if those of you who aren't familiar, white boxing is when one company does the work but puts the name of another company on it. The one I always remember is Lenovo. For decades made IBM laptops. Nobody ever knew. And then, it just came out and Lenovo started making their own laptops. I think they might even still make IBM, but, IBM didn't, I don't think, ever made their own laptops. So this does happen, especially in the printing industry. And now there's a requirement that the actual manufacturing organization put their code on the work when doing outsourcing. Okay. So last on the list are all the little changes that, you got a big head, bud, that can sometimes make big changes hard to pick out. All right, I already mentioned invoicing. The word invoice has mostly been replaced with sales documents or some other iteration. To me, the most frustrating one is that they made core labor section 7, which means section 7 became section 8, section 8 became section 9. Every single section has been renumbered from there forward. Now, our American Green documentation sets that we use, our CoC portal, we do what we call auditor proofing. And that is, we literally put in line, as we're doing some portion of the documentation, the section of the standard that is applicable to, so that the auditor can actually just do a control F and find that section, and they don't have to accidentally miss it. So we've done a lot of updates to our documents over these past few months here because of this change. But that's one to note if that's how you do your documentation as well. And then realistically, there's just a smattering of changes here and there. ASI changed their name, so that was changed because they spell that out. Section 1.9 is changed. Section 2.3, which again is one of those fly on the wall situations, which I would have just loved to have been part of the audit. But section 2.3 has been changed to make clear that you can't just have a procedure to do something, you actually have to implement the procedure that you have. Section 4.2 changes the word purchase document to supplier sales documents on page only. Thank you. The reason I mentioned something like this is these are the random little gotcha changes that shouldn't be an issue, oftentimes aren't an issue, but you get the wrong auditor on the wrong day, you have the wrong little bit of language, especially in your material accounting records, can trip you up, and all of a sudden you've got a minor corrective action or minor non-conformance. So watch for those small language changes between the two. Bless you. Elbows. Thank you. All right. And then their last bit is there are just a few changes throughout. I'm not going to go through each one of them. They are pretty typical of every update, where they've taken old advice notes that they'd issued over time and provided and just worked them into the standard. So we've seen some advice notes disappear now because they are part of the standard. Okay. So if anybody has been put any questions in, I'm going to take a look now at the Q&A, and we'll pause just a moment, and then we'll get back to this. Oh, where did I go? Okay. Apologize. I just closed the sharing, but that's all right. All right. We have no asked questions at the moment. I'll give it just a moment longer. Is there anybody who, since we have a moment, would like me to unmute you so you can answer or ask a question verbally? If so, just do your hand raise or trigger me in some other way here. Okay. Well, again, my apologies for the chaos of this. Best laid plans. I hope I was able to hit on a number of these things. Again, we will send a copy of the track changes version of the standard out when we send the webinar. Certainly, I encourage any of you, if you have specific questions that come up after this webinar, you are welcome to send them to me directly. Chris, CHRIS at AmericanGreenConsulting.com. Looks like we did just have one question come in. Thank you, Kendra. Yes, that is it. Joe, I did just unmute you if you wanted to ask that question live.
Oh, thank you, Chris. Quick question. If I work for a company that has, the parent company has FSC certification, and we have a client that wants a product and says, hey, it's okay, it does not have to be FSC certified, and we source it out to somebody that's not FSC certified, can that affect the parent company certification?
It does not. If somebody, somebody is not requesting an FSC certified product, then you do not have to run it through your FSC system. And if you're not running it through your FSC system, then all of these requirements fall away.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate that.
Sure.